The Alabama Farmers Federation and the Alabama Farmers Cooperative proudly present Simply Southern with your hosts Jim Allen and Mary Johnson.
Hello and welcome to Simply Southern. I'm Mary Johnson.
And I'm Jim Allen. Coming up on today's show, Sidney Phelps of Bonnie Plants will be with us here in the studio to answer gardening questions from our viewers. Plus, we'll see how volunteers across the state are battling litter bugs as part of the Don't Drop It on Alabama spring cleanup.
It's just to help about keeping the community clean, making it look nice for everybody. It's also about teaching my children about community service.
Agriculture is Alabama's largest industry, and a new farmers market is helping revitalize the Dallas County town of Orville.
Most towns have a place where people go and they can meet up. This is the main business in Orville right now. This is where everybody comes and you see everybody.
But to get us started, can you hear the pipes are calling?
There are competitions where I can toss this halo bay higher. I can throw this heavyweight farther. And that's how it developed, was the families coming together and competing over their chores.
Scotland comes alive in South Alabama when Simply Southern returns.
What we eat, what we wear. It all starts somewhere. And if it's good, it usually starts with a farmer. And that somewhere is right here in Alabama. In a field, in a barn, on a tractor. Right now, there's a farmer starting something good for all of us. And it all starts right here in Alabama.
There's no such thing as downtime when you own a farm. This is your land. You tend it and try to get the most from it, no matter the weather or time of day. It's been that way for generations. And for generations, your local quality co-op store has been there for you, with a full range of agriculture supplies and services, from feed to fertilizer, seed to grain storage, and the right hardware for any application. You'll always find what you need, plus friendly, knowledgeable advice at your local quality co-op store. There's one near you.
Like most of America, Alabama has a diverse heritage. You can see it in the names of our towns, cities, and even our own names. Allen is a pretty common name in these parts, but it originated in Scotland, along with many other common names you hear around the South. To celebrate this Scottish heritage, Dothan kicked off its first Highland Games in 2016. There was no way this Scotland-Alabama country boy was missing out on round two.
The haunting wail of bagpipes fills the air this fine spring morning, beckoning the ancient clans back to their traditional festival grounds. Woman and man, young and old, have come to prove themselves in grueling contests of strength, endurance, and skill. For this is no land for the weak of spirit. This is Dothan, where the lasses are mighty and the men have no pants.
If I asked you if you were a true Scotsman, are you?
Absolutely. I believe the term is regimental.
The second annual Southeast Alabama Highland Games, as most great events started, this one started sitting at a friend's house having a drink. Our athletic director was a nationally ranked thrower, and he wanted to bring something like this to the area. And one night sitting around, we just said, we can pull this off.
You might think a weekend watching folks in plaid skirts hurl rocks and hammers around would be boring. You also might be French. But here in the South, Highland Games have found a healthy following with several events throughout Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, and the Carolinas. Although Alabama has hosted a number of games in years past, Dothan is hoping to become the state's official home away from the Highlands.
Tell me, Bob, do you know any Hank Williams?
I know Hank Williams if he were at a Highland Games.
We've got competitors from all over coming into this: Florida, Alabama, Georgia. We've got 4 nationally ranked throwers competing with us today. One gentleman here is with the Gimp Style Foundation. He is actually competing in his wheelchair today. So he is throwing the caber, throwing the heavies, as I like to say, showing the big guy how it's done.
The Highland Games has something to soothe every soul longing for a little piece of bonnie Scotland. You've got pipes and fifes, kilts and colorful clan parades, and even notorious Scottish cuisine, like haggis.
If I were in Scotland and I got haggis, what would be in here?
Well, we got the sheep's heart, liver, oatmeal, onions.
So everything you just said is in here?
Except the lungs.
Oh my Lord.
But the highlight of the day is the games themselves. If hillbillies had worn togas, this might be your Olympics, folks. Some pretty stout guys and gals compete shot putting stones, hurling heavy bales, throwing hammers and weights, all leading up to the big finale, the caber toss. I don't know what it is about watching someone try to flip a telephone pole, but it's a crowd pleaser. Several of these competitors hold national ranks, competing at games across the nation. But as with many of our modern sporting events, it all probably started with those magic words. Hey y'all, watch this.
Living in the Highlands and living for what we would understand as the country, their competitions were, I can toss this hail of bay higher. I can throw this heavyweight farther. And that's how it developed, was the families coming together and competing over their chores, over what they did on a daily basis, see who was better. So that clan was the honored clan.
Here in Alabama, we may be more inclined to toss a mullet than a caber, but there's a lot of Scotland in our heritage. So if you're thinking you might like to hook up with your family clan, grab yourself a bite of haggis, or just watch some big fellows throw the old caber around, pencil Dothan into your springtime weekend plans. And don't forget to wear your kilt.
The weather's phenomenal, and so it's been great. I would love to see 1,500, even 2,000 people come through here and grow every year. That's what we're wanting to do. We're wanting to grow, make this better, and bring more people here.
If watching hay bales fly and telephone poles do backflips sounds like your kind of weekend, well, you and I have got something in common. WiregrassHighlandGames.com has all the information on Dothan's Highland Games Festival.
Now, Scotland is kind of known for interesting foods, and we saw you try haggis. Tell me what you really thought about it.
It was most interesting, is all I'm going to say.
Okay, we can just leave it at that then.
Let's do.
When Simply Southern returns, we'll pull on gloves and grab trash bags to help community-minded pals clean up Alabama's roadsides.
How do you show love? With the big things? The little things? The tough things? Your everything. Show them you care. Alpha Insurance.
Support healthy food from local farmers by purchasing a Farming Feeds Alabama license plate. The tag funds education and promotion efforts, including Ag in the Classroom, agricultural scholarships, and youth programs. Get your Ag tag today.
For 100 years, every Bonnie plant has started with 2 hands and a mission: to put fresh, homegrown herbs and vegetables on every table in America.
Who are you talking to?
The plants, they like it. Success starts and ends with Bonnie plants.
Alabama soybean farmers help fuel the state's economy. Soybeans are used to make clean, renewable biodiesel and are a key ingredient in feed for poultry, catfish, and livestock. Soybeans are used in dozens of products we use every day. But best of all, soybean farmers generate $258 million and more than 4,000 jobs for Alabama's economy, all while helping conserve our natural resources. Explore the power of soy.
Beer cans, soda bottles, fast food bags, even discarded furniture. It's all litter when it's on the side of the road. And when left unchecked, this trash can harm the environment, hinder economic development, and mar nature's beauty. But as Kevin Worthington reports, thousands of volunteers across the state are working to change the littered landscape during the Don't Drop It on Alabama spring cleanup.
Picking up trash along the road isn't most kids' idea of fun. But for Grayson Henneke and his mother Leanne, the Don't Drop It on Alabama spring cleanup has become a family tradition.
It makes me feel good that I've done something good for the community, I guess. You should totally do it, although you don't really want to wake up in the morning. didn't want to do that. But once you get out here and get to know other people, it's pretty fun.
Leanne, who was among about 70 volunteers at the McCullough Community Cleanup in Jefferson County, says she's proud her son is learning the value of service.
It's just to help about keeping the community clean, making it look nice for everybody. It's also about teaching my children about community service and giving back and being a part of a bigger community.
The Hennickes aren't alone. Across the state, more than 20,000 people each year help keep Alabama beautiful by participating in spring cleanup and other anti-littering programs sponsored by Alabama PALS, or People Against a Littered State. PALS Executive Director Spencer Ryan says the organization distributed 180,000 trash bags to cleanups in 65 counties this year. When filled, those bags represent potentially 1,500 tons of litter and $8.5 million in savings for the state of Alabama. Ryan says the Jefferson County Commission and Stormwater Management Team have developed a volunteer network that rivals any in the nation.
They are a dynamic group of people. We started working with their team, coordinating cleanups in the Birmingham area 3 years ago. And in 3 short years, they have gone from 20 cleanups, I think, planned within the Jefferson County area to over 60 this year. Last year, they turned in totals of over 80 tons of litter picked up. So that's the kind of volunteerism I think you're going to see involving PALS statewide.
Rick House coordinates cleanups in the McCullough and McAdory communities. Like other PALS volunteers, he says it's not his job, it's his passion.
After moving out here in 2005, I started noticing that the roadsides were very littered. And I thought that somebody needed to do something about all this. And just one day I just decided that, well, that's someone going to be me, looks like.
Jefferson County Commission President Jimmy Stevens says more than 1,000 volunteers are involved in cleanups just in his county alone.
There's 2,200 miles of roads in Jefferson County. It would be impossible without the help of our citizens to keep those roads clean. And if people take pride and ownership in their community, and it fosters a completely different attitude and helps improve the quality of life throughout the county.
Other Alabama PALS efforts include Adopt a Mile, Adopt a Stream, and the Clean Campus program sponsored by Alpha Insurance and the Alabama Farmers Cooperative. PALS partners with the Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Coastal Division to sponsor the Alabama Coastal Cleanup the 3rd Saturday of September. More than 6,000 volunteers are expected to participate in the 30th Coastal Cleanup this year. Their efforts will benefit the environment and the economy, but Leanne Hennickes says the personal rewards are even greater.
It's about recognizing everything's not about me. It's not just me in the world. I'm a part of a bigger community. There's other people that matter, and I do think there's something about being my brother's keeper and watching out for each other. All of those things are important to me.
For Simply Southern, I'm Kevin Worthington.
Volunteers say the cleanups actually help prevent littering because people are less likely to throw trash out on a road that is well maintained.
That's very true, and Alabama PALS sponsors anti-littering activities year-round. There's the coastal cleanup down on the Gulf, and maybe I'll volunteer for that one. Get some of that trash out of the splash.
That would be fun for you, Mary.
Up next, we stop at the Orville Farmers Market. The town's population may barely break 200. But it seems like all those folks are stopping by this new attraction every week.
One out of 4 Alabama residents have benefited from the Alabama Cooperative Extension System. Last year, Master Gardener Managed Gardens donated $150,000 worth of fruits and vegetables to food banks, and over 25,000 young people developed math, science, technology, and engineering skills through 4-H. Now what we want to know is, how can we help you?
Alabama wheat and feed grain farmers grow food, fuel, and freedom. Their harvest helps feed Alabama's multi-million-dollar livestock, catfish, and poultry industries while reducing America's dependence on foreign countries for energy and food. By combining their strength with farmers of other commodities, feed grain growers are fueling the economic growth of Alabama communities.
Nothing brings the family together like U.S. farm-raised catfish. American catfish farmers are dedicated to producing a premium, healthy catfish with a consistently mild, sweet flavor. Because we take as much pride in our work as you do in your cooking. From our family farms to your family's table, you can be sure you're getting the highest quality fish. Because your family deserves the best. U.S. farm-raised catfish.
If you've ever made the trek from Montgomery to Meridian, Mississippi, then you've passed through Orville on Highway 80. With just over 200 residents listed in the 2010 census, it's the epitome of a small town. And when you buy a city block and start renovating it in a small town, people start talking. That's what Erwin and Judy McKinney did a few years ago, and now their seed company, restaurant, and farmers market are breathing new life into this rural community.
Judy McKinney has called Orville home for a little over 8 years. She and her husband brought their seed cutting and cleaning company to town back then, but now they are proprietors of Orville Farmers Market, which includes a restaurant, store, and of course, a farmers market.
It's really gone a whole lot faster than I expected it to. So I'm really hanging on, and I'm just gonna hang on for the ride and keep going.
The farmers market is what started it all 2 years ago. Local farmers joined Judy by setting up outside the old abandoned Kirk buildings off Highway 80.
As I'm sitting there with the farmers, and we were patroned well, but as I'm watching cars go by, I'm thinking, how do I get those people to stop? I really, really, really want them to pay attention to the farmers in this area.
The answer for Judy? Buying those abandoned buildings and turning them into a store and restaurant. Along with increased foot traffic during the farmers market, the additional businesses provide more markets for farmers' goods.
The coolest thing about the program that we've got going here is they can come to the farmers market and they can set up and they can sell to consumers. They can sell to us in the farmers market, and we're either going to take their product and we're going to sell it, or we're actually going to cook it and make meals out of it. The next phase will be we'll be able to can it and preserve it and turn it into jams, jellies, locally grown jams, jellies, and preserves, pickles, and so on and so forth. So very excited about that.
Although he's originally from Clark County, farmer Drew McLendon is now an Orville resident who sells produce at the farmers market.
We've been here since they started. When all this was the old store, there was concrete floor in there. There was really nothing in there but storage. You see a lot of faces that you don't see very often. I even had relatives that didn't even know I was here.
While Drew works full-time elsewhere, the market allows him to make additional income without the cost of traveling a longer distance.
I normally work about 55, 60 hours a week at my normal job, so I don't have much opportunity to go other markets and stuff, but we do pretty well here, and we enjoy it, and it's our community, so we like to try to keep it as local as possible. Most towns have a place where people go and that they can meet up. This is the main business in Orville right now. This is where everybody comes and you see everybody.
And the market is even helping Orville's youngest entrepreneurs.
I collect my eggs in the afternoon. I started when I was 4 and now I'm 9. I used to sell 6 dozen, now I sell 11 dozen because now the farmers market's here. Some of the ladies say that they make pound cakes and they eat them for breakfast, and that they say that they're really good.
While the Jaeger Girls Farm Fresh eggs are a big hit at the farmers market store, there's plenty of other goodies available too. From homemade cinnamon rolls to cookbooks and gift items. The store even sells everything needed to raise vegetables from seed. So someone could buy seed from the farmers market and then sell the mature produce back to the restaurant. Talk about fresh.
The idea of buying local is a novelty and it's huge, but to be able to watch it happen and know that, okay, I can come in here and I just bought a bunch of collards that came from a farmer who needed me to buy those collards. When you go in the grocery store, You don't put a farmer's face with the fact that you're picking up a tomato or an orange, and farmers markets just have that appeal that people know that they're buying locally grown produce.
In a short amount of time, the farmers market really has become a hub of that small community. On their very first weekend open, over 200 people came through the doors.
I've heard of Orville's tractor pull they have every year. What'd that do for them?
That was actually their second weekend open last fall. Over 1,000 people through the doors, and that's 5 times the population of that town.
That's incredible. Coming up next, Sidney Phelps of Bonnie Plants will be with us. He'll be answering gardening questions submitted by our viewers.
How do you show love? With the big things? The little things? The tough things? Your everything. Show them you care. Alpha Insurance.
There's nothing quite like sitting down to a home-cooked meal with fresh vegetables from the garden. With Bonnie Plants from your local quality co-op store, you can enjoy the freshest vegetables right from your own backyard. And no matter if you're a raised bed gardener, a rose gardener, or if you farm hundreds of acres, your quality co-op store has exactly what you need to get the most out of your plants. You'll always find what you need, plus friendly, knowledgeable advice at your local quality co-op store. There's one near you.
Seriously?
Have some respect. Pick it up, man.
Did you just litter?
Take pride in your school. Pick it up, man.
Clean it up, dude.
Besides keeping your campus clean, adopt a mile with roadside cleanup. Attend the next Coastal Cleanup Day or pitch in on the annual Spring Cleanup campaign. Make a difference by picking up litter and...
Don't drop it on Alabama!
For 100 years, every Bonnie plant has started with 2 hands and a mission: to put fresh, homegrown herbs and vegetables on every table in America.
Who are you talking to?
The plants, they like it. Success starts and ends with Bonnie Plants.
Welcome back to Simply Southern. Today, Sidney Phelps is out of the garden. He's in the studio today to answer your questions that you've submitted. Sidney, thanks so much for being here with us.
Good to be back. How have you guys been doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Sid, we got a question from Dale on simplysouthern@alafarm.com.
Okay.
And he wants to know about squash borers. Last year he got decimated with squash borers, and he doesn't want them again this year. What's he need to do?
Well, when you're dealing with squash borers, first thing they're going to do is they are devastating to the crop. They're going to go right into the blossoms as they come on and start attacking the stems. They're going to start biting at it, gnawing. That's what they do. I mean, it's a real pest to have in the garden. So once they're in it, there's no reviving the squash. So like you said, the issue that Dale ran into is he got them, he didn't get it, he was not able to produce anything. So there's a couple of ways that you can prevent having these. The first thing that you can do is to use some kind of herbicide or insecticide, and if that's not the route that you want to take, which some people don't, they want to be more traditional, the squash borers are attracted to the color yellow. That's why they go to the blossoms or to the finished crop product that's coming off of the plant. So you can actually get plastic bowls that are bright yellow in color and put it in the center of the rows where your squash is. And they're attracted to that and almost uses it as a trap to entrap them. You have to check them every day and everything like that to stay on top of it. But probably the most economical and easiest way that you're going to be able to do this is a mesh or a netting. And you can place it over top of the squash, and it's going to be a little bit cumbersome when you get ready to harvest and to handle that, but it's going to keep them out. You can weigh it down and keep it from getting into the soil. Another method is using a trap crop. That's something that we've talked about with several other things, is just planting sorghum if you have the space to go around. But for the most part, people aren't going to have a whole lot of space and planting that much of a produce line. So I think the netting or the mesh is going to be the way to go for Dale, or anybody for that matter.
Those are good tips for Dale. Hopefully that helps him out and gets him some squash this summer. We do have another question that came through our Facebook account Phil was asking about blueberry bushes, and he's wondering if you have to plant 2 of those together for them to actually pollinate and produce fruit.
Traditional blueberries, you're going to need 2 plants. They can't be the same variety, but they have to bloom at the same time. That is the only way that you can get them to pollinate together. But you can find new hybrids or crossbreeds that are available now. We've done some testing with what are called dwarf blueberries. You don't have to buy multiples, you can buy a single and it will produce blueberries. But for the most part, when you're dealing with traditional blueberries, you need 2 of 2 different style varieties that bloom at the same time, and you want to keep them in pretty close proximity of each other. That way that they're allowed to produce the blueberries. So timing is a key factor on that. You want to make sure that you're really researching before you make the purchase. Another thing with blueberries, you have to look at your pH, soil. So before you plan on getting into that, always make sure that you do a really thorough soil test.
All right, well, I guess the last question that we'd have for you is just from my own personal garden. We had lettuce this year and it started to bloom. Can you eat that lettuce?
You can eat the lettuce. It's going to probably get more of a bitter taste. It might be not as pleasant as a fresh. What's happening with that is the plant's going into a stress. So it's probably happening at a time when the weather was changing and the heat was increasing. You see those trends with collards, broccoli, any of the cold crops. It's what we refer to as bolting. So it's a simple thing. You can eat it, but it's going to probably be bitter.
Sidney, thank you so much for being here and for all the great tips. We really appreciate it. If you have a gardening question, drop Sidney an email at simplysouthern@alafarm.com and he may answer it on an upcoming show. Of course, you can always visit bonnieplants.com for new ideas and additional information.
That's our show for this week. We appreciate you watching. I hope you'll be back with us next week as I visit a barrel factory. Sounds boring? It's owned by a gentleman named Jack.
And if he's not saving lives, he's saving cowboys from angry bulls. We'll look at the 2 very different sides of one of the South's top rodeo clowns. But before we go today, here are links to some of the stories we featured on this morning's show. I'm Mary Johnson.
And I'm Jim Allen. We'll see you again next week.
Simply Southern is a production of the Alabama Farmers Cooperative and the Alabama Farmers Federation.